Today we're traveling to France, one of the first countries in the world to draft a national AI strategy that was grounded in ethics, in research excellence, and European sovereignty. To unpack all this, I'm joined by my friend, Nicolas Miailhe, CEO of PRISM Eval and one of Europe's most respected voices in AI governance. Nico, welcome. To start, can you tell us a little bit about your work that spans over decades in the field of AI and governance?
And it's great to be here, and congrats on that podcast. I guess you can maybe best define me as one of the pioneers or veterans of AI governance. Before starting this B Corp called PRISM Eval that really specializes on frontier AI safety evaluation, taking a small slice of the evaluation pie, which is a question of malicious instructions and measuring the resilience of models and agents to that. I founded a nonprofit operating on both sides of the Atlantic and beyond called The Future Society, which I think was one of the first AI policy think tank, independent think tank based on philanthropy. Even so, I've had the privilege of serving and contributing to most, if not all, of the now emerge AI governance frameworks on both sides of the Atlantic, EU Act, OECD, G20, UNESCO, and so on and so forth. I still serve on several expert group within GPA, OECD, and I'm also now the co-founder of AI Safety Connect, which is a platform that we have built to really talk about AI safety in a continuing way and putting the emphasis on that in this growing series of AI summits that started at Bletchley Park. I'm based in Paris, and I'm a proud French.
How did you see the strategy evolving over time? France had a big ambition when they launched the strategy. It was in 2019.
It was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, March of 2018 at the Collège de France, big symbol of French knowledge and French scientific influence, if not power, by the president himself, at a very interesting process led by a member of parliament, Cédric Villani, a very famous mathematician, and announced and presented by the president himself, embodying at the highest level of our states at that time. So you're right to mention that France had one of the earliest and I think most instinctive AI strategies in Europe, which was from the get-go anchored in ethics, in the pursuit of research excellence, and a quest for sovereignty. And over the years, in the various iterations and continuation of that strategy, we have seen that strategy moving from principle into execution. The foundations of that France exhibits are solid. Everyone knows it. It's, I think, amazing research excellence. So many Nobel Prize. I mean, look at this year. Again, 2 Nobel Prize coming from France, one in physics, one in economics. It's quite amazing. We have vibrant academic institutions. We have growing investment in our startup ecosystem, growing investment in compute. And I think that what we face today is a set of bottlenecks which are capitalistic and operational in nature, meaning turning good research and innovation into scalable, trusted product and services. And the empire that really dominates this products and services, and particularly products, is really the US. If you compare OpenAI and Mistral, if you compare ChatGPT and Le Chat, I mean, the Americans are so good because of their capitalistic firepower and because also of the ability to leverage their market size, critical mass of their market size to scale products. And that's something where in France, we're struggling a little bit. And so we are trying to move the focus away from the only question of products, looking at industrial services. I think that also a promising element for France is that it understands, I think, now that the question of sovereignty is not only about capability, and it's investing a lot and has invested a lot in capability, as announced in the AI Action Summit, but it's also about confidence, trust, the ability to evaluate and deliver assurance in terms of what we built. And that's, I think, today the so-called missing infrastructure, which is starting to emerge with this activities in evaluation, in certification, and verification, which I believe are really the pillars of industrial and national AI strengths moving forward.
So if you were to whisper in President Macron's ear, what would you say that's one thing that he should do in order to accelerate that translation of this research excellence into, industry traction?
Really invest in making the real connections. It's already happening between the industrial players. We're strong when Stellantis, when Airbus, when Sanofi, when Bosch are strong. Do we really care about the strength of Microsoft, Google, and the others? Much less. Really, what Europe and France strives upon is the mastery of safety and mission-critical functions. And so creating all the conditions, including through subsidy, including with the state acting as a first buyer, to really nurture the deep connection and the underlying efforts for large language models and agents to be placed at the center of a mission critical value chain. There's a revolution in safety evaluation, certification, verification that needs to happen. We now have a National AI Safety Institute called INESIA, Institut National de l'Évaluation et de la Sécurité des IA. And it's like a confederation of very relevant institutions, or National Metrology Lab, or Cybersecurity Agency, or AI Research Lab called INRIA, and others. We need strong leadership at the helm of that organization.
You've been deeply involved in shaping AI governance. Do you see governance itself as a form of sovereignty, a way for France to project influence globally?
Governance is power projection. The simplest way to see and understand that and to see the power of standards and see how, through ISO and IEC and others like industrial actors in the US, such as Qualcomm in the area of telecom, have managed, or Dolby Surround in the domain of sound, have managed to project a market dominance and ossify it and solidify it via standards. In AI, whoever defines those norms, those standards, is basically defining the playing field. And France has been a very active player from the get-go through the OECD principles, through the UNESCO, and joining hands with Canada to set up this global partnership on AI. Now, I think that the next phase is to complement that leadership with what I would call technical credibility. That's why I insisted on the importance of this French AI Safety Institute to benefit from a great leadership to be able to join the ongoing frontier AI safety and frontier AI capability adoption conversation that is led by this international network of cooperation between AI Safety Institute, which remains an ad hoc, non-institutional network, but close to OECD and JPI. And for that, you need to be able to joint evaluations with your peers. You need to be able to set up testing infrastructure, safety benchmarks, reporting, and you need to lean along that way. That is a function of technical talents at the core of this institution, much like what the AI Security Institute has done in the UK, attracting amazing talent. I think that indeed governance, particularly in this day when it's paired with the measurement, good measurement, metrology, the science of measurement, advancing metrology and verification, becomes clearly a strategic capability. It would allow France and Europe use this as a launching pad to set global standards that others would follow. Think about the importance of the CE mark in the domain of so many equipments. Think about CE mark for AI and what it could represent for France and Europe. It's in a way a touch of sovereignty, totally, but it will not happen by chance or without any energy because the competition out there is fierce.
How does the ability to understand and evaluate advanced AI systems strengthen a nation's autonomy and resilience?
Basically, you cannot govern what you cannot read and interpret. And the black box challenge is an enduring challenge, a growing challenge of the AI revolution. We call these models foundation models, aiming to build a lot of a lot of stuff on these foundations, but those are foundations we do not understand. Foundations we don't understand is something which is unprecedented in our civilization to build economies and society upon it. When we were building mines and bridges and aircrafts in the past centuries, we had a fairly good understanding from a scientific perspective and from an engineering perspective of all the phenomena that were happening there. And that's different here. And so interpretability and the pursuit of interpretability, which is a lot of what we're trying to help with at PRISM Eval, and evaluation as a pathway to both study and engineer safety measures is key to make AI more legible. And this interpretability quest, in a way, transform these opaque systems into more accountable ones. And it's particularly important, as I said, if you deploy them in safety critical value chains, such as healthcare, such as defense, such as public administration in general. And it's difficult to deploy them safely if you cannot better understand them and stress test their behaviors. It's becoming a strategic asset as much as owning compute. And that's eventually what I think guarantees more control and resilience, particularly in crisis. And so interpretability and assurance are really what we could frame as the invisible infrastructure of sovereignty. That's the layer that really ensure autonomy and meaningful autonomy in this era of black box intelligence.
Thank you, Nico. What do you think sovereign AI is? And especially, what is sovereign AI in the French context?
I think it's important to, in a way, step back, particularly as French, and not be obsessed by perfect and total sovereignty, which will never happen. because of our over dependence on US-based technology, starting from compute and data centers, all up to the application layer. I think we may want to, in a way, redefine sovereignty as a form of decisive freedom, the freedom to decide, the ability to design, deploy, and govern AI systems in the national interest across critical value chains, including the most strategic one in the military. And I think that such a decisive freedom, in a way, rests on four layers: compute and infrastructure, obviously, which gives you the capacity to act. And on that, we are a bit back in France, of course. Data and model assets, which is key to train and customize applications. And on that, we have Mistral, of course. Third, assurance, which I said is the bottleneck and is the missing layer. And fourth, ultimately, what I frame as epistemic independence, meaning the national competence to interpret and to correct the systems, to really deploy them safely in society, and what makes what citizens know. Like, we are looking for sovereignty, and we are depending a lot on US hardware and software. All our talks about sovereignty and much of our compute, as I say, and application areas depends on the US and Asia. I don't think it invalidates our quest for sovereignty. It just changes the sequencing. The short term, obviously, seek trusted access to US technologies, but trusted access. You negotiate sovereignty clauses in this infrastructure contract. You move towards more data localization, residency, auditability, and transparency. Medium term is obviously what's going on, is about building these European compute clusters and try and maximize for France how many of those in France, with, of course, priority access for some type of research, some form of public administration, and some critical industry. And I think across all these timelines, there's one thing that should remain constant, is at least seek to be sovereign in the assurance, because of this black box challenge of these models. So if every chips are foreign, and the tests and the certification of the applications that you let in your market should be local, so that in a way the safety rules can be owned and can be ours. In other words, whoever controls the evaluation layers, the testing layers, which is key to the trust, has a very important currency of power.
How can sovereign AI deliver tangible value, better public services, stronger democracy, social cohesion, rather than just becoming a industrial policy slogan?
That's the ultimate test, in my opinion. Sovereignty that does not improve consumers and our workers and our citizens' life is just a form of rhetoric. It doesn't mean much, and it plays against the ultimate goal of sovereignty. And so the question is about how do we make people experience sovereignty in their daily life, systems that are faster, cheaper, fairer in nature, and clearly accountable. Particularly in public administration, clear accountability is something that is crucial. And that means assurance by design, safety and assurance by design, testing the systems before deployment, monitoring them when they are put on the market, publishing and benchmarking performance evidence, and offering clear channels for citizens and consumers seeking redress. It's about what guarantees can be verified.
We look at the map, the US and China consolidating power in the AI race. Middle East is investing heavily. Where does France fit in all this geopolitical race for AI sovereignty?
And I think that on that, France and Europe have a clear position to play in the global race. Obviously, the US and China dominates the scale race. And I think that Europe's strengths can lie in the industrial side of things, particularly in regards to standards, assurance, and trust. And obviously, and we're starting to do it, we can make access to our markets, which has critical mass because of these 500 million consumers. We can make access to this market contingent on transparency and more variable AI. But the same way we have done with privacy and many other elements with this CE mark that we then exported, that is serving other markets. Maybe to close, if I have to leave the audience with one thought, maybe it would be this. Again, AI sovereignty is not about owning every piece of the stack. It's about owning the trust in how the stack behaves and climbing from not control on the stack to more control on the stack. And that trust comes from assurance, the ability to test, evaluate, and continuously verify and monitor to ensure that the systems are loyal and safe to be deployed in more and more critical value chains. And France, of course, on this has amazing talents, amazing research institutions, and innovation potential to lead in that space. And I hope that what is French will be championing in the years ahead. Thanks a lot, Maria, again for hosting me.
Nico, merci beaucoup. This has been quite a conversation.